much. We shall now go on to our next speaker, Dr. Murli Ariga, who is the director of Swami Eye Clinic and HOD of the Ophthalm Department of SMF Chennai. With years of experience, he has had a special interest in perimetry and newer lasers and has about 30 peer-reviewed publications and 10 textbook chapters. And he has been the past treasurer of GSI and editor-in-chief of GSI newsletter and associate editor of TNOA journal. And he is going to tell us something more, reading a single field printout with an octopus perimeter. And on to you, Dr. Murli.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chitra, and thanks to AOS ARC for our panel for this kind invitation and a lovely discussion going on. Basically, you all know, I think from history, that the octopus was the world's first automated perimeter, and the octopus timeline tells you there have been so many perimeters that have evolved over time. The octopus 123 and the octopus 300 have stood the test of time, and it's been there for more than about 2-3 decades now. And various strategies like the equivalent of the full threshold called the dynamic strategy, the normal strategy, the top, so many changes in the software. And now we have flicker perimetry added to some of these perimeters, and we have the octopus 600 and the 900, which are currently in use. Various individuals have contributed to the timeline of octopus and its software. You can see Frank Hauser, who has actually contributed a lot towards the octopus perimeters. He's talking at an IPS meeting about 2-3 decades ago. You can look at the computer is using, look at the perimeter, and look at the OHP screen it is using to project. Things have come a long way since the evolution of the first perimeter. And we now have various models of the octopus perimeter as compared to the Humphrey, which is only one basic model. So the comparison, I'm showing a tabular column here between the 300 series and the 700 series. The 300 is a direct projection perimeter in which near correction is not needed. The other difference is the stimulus duration and the luminance for 0 decibels is different from the 300. The bracketing strategy is slightly different with the 300 as compared to 700. Why this tabular column is that you can't really compare data from the two perimeters unless you have some way of an algorithm or some formula to actually change the thresholding. So keep side by side, two perimeters, two printouts cannot be compared. The difference between the direct projection 300, which looks like an autoref, is different from the ball type of the Humphrey perimeters, in which the direct projection looks like as if the stimulus is coming from infinity. So therefore, it's easier for the patient. It can be done in ambient light, does not require any dim lighting and so on. It's quite comfortable for the patient as well. This is the 900 octopus full field kinetic as well as static perimetry. This is the first perimeter which can actually do automated kinetic perimetry as well. I think many of us use the 900 octopus perimeter in which you can do automated kinetic perimetry. And the octopus 900 is a very, very versatile perimeter. You can actually test different test strategies like the G program, 10-2, 24, 32, 30, low vision, neuro programs, and periphery testing. And you can even, suppose you feel you're missing out something, you can actually do what is called as a custom testing option as well. This is available with the latest 900. The 600 is also another perimeter model of the octopus available. It's the world's first perimeter offering a flicker-free TFT monitor. The stimuli is presented silently for increased reliability, and there's no chin rest. The response button is more comfortable to press, and so on. You can see the trial sit is right on the machine itself. It's a patented flicker stimulus in a ring pattern, consists of a phase and counterphase image that alternates with a frequency of 10 Hz over 500 milliseconds. If the flicker sensitivity is reduced, the phase and counterphase images result in an overlapped image that is not visible anymore. By changing the contrast and spatial resolution, the full threshold can be tested. And it's a very minimum learning effect as far as the 600 testing pattern is. This is not white on white perimetry, mind you. So in the octopus, how do you decide what test and what strategy? All of us, most often, we would use the G program, which covers the arcuate areas and specific for glaucoma. You can also do the equivalent of the 30-2, the 32 program, and so on. You also have the macula and the 10-2 program. So full threshold is normal. The CETA standard equivalent is dynamic, and the CETA fast equivalent is tendency-oriented perimetry called top. Essentially, it's the same, but the G program is quite different. 59 test points in the G program, paracentral locations with foveal resolution of 2.8, and nasal step areas given priority. No testing points in the meridian or the blind spot. The 30-2 is equivalent to the 32 program, the octopus, 76 equidistant kind of 6-degree resolution testing points. So somebody was asking about foveal threshold. You don't need foveal thresholding because the G program has a foveal resolution of 2.8 degrees as compared to a 30-2. So this is the G pattern testing pattern for glaucoma. And you can look at the close clustering in the center. You can look at the arcuate pattern of testing. This is very specific for glaucoma, unlike the 24-2 and the 30-2. The M pattern has 81 test locations 45 equally spaced, 1 degree spacing in the central foveal area, 4 degrees, and 36 radially. Lot of points tested in the M pattern, particularly useful in advanced glaucoma, drug-induced maculopathy, ARMDs, and so on. And fixation monitoring and active trackers are very much present in all the octopus models. The stimulus is not presented when fixation loss occurs in the octopus perimeter. So therefore, fixation loss is not a problem. Fixation loss will not even be estimated because stimuli is not presented. Only false positives and false negatives are monitored. And also you have the automated eye tracker and a fixation control. The iSuite software has a 7-in-1 printout, can give you a HFA type printout, can give you a cluster analysis, can give you a polar graph as well. I'll come to that in a while. This is the single field printout of the octopus, which gives you patient data and refraction. The grayscale can actually be generated in color because we now have color printers. The comparison is equivalent of total deviation. The corrected comparison equivalent of pattern deviation. You have the test type and strategy, which is usually top or normal. The reliabilities, false positives, false negatives, and you have a reliability factor at the bottom. You have the values, which is actually thresholds, and you have a defect curve, which I'll come to in a little while. And you have the indices, which like the MD, the mean defect, the loss variance, and of course the short-term fluctuation and so on. In brief, this is similar to the Humphrey perimeter, except that the terminology is simpler and much more easy to understand. Systematic interpretation, you confirm all the parameters, you check the reliability, you look for diffuse or focal loss, you look at is it typical for glaucoma, and you look at the cluster and corrected clusters, you look at the structure function correlation, clinically correlate the patient. You can also assess severity using the MD and the LV. So the 7-in-1 printout gives you a lot of information, a lot of parameters in one single printout. A 4-in-1 gives you more information of the detailed analysis of what you can do as the grayscale defect. You can actually choose what you want in a 4-in-1, what you want in a display. Unlike the Humphrey, it's very flexible. You can actually customize the output from the machine. The grayscale can be generated in color. The grayscale can be displayed for both values, that is thresholds, or for comparison. It is ideal to get it for comparisons. And if you look at the grayscale, for every 5 decibels, there's a different color and so on. This is useful to describe the damage to the patient and nothing more. The comparison, corrected comparison, is equivalent of total and pattern deviation, depending on how much it is deviated from expected normal and what is the actual threshold, which are differing sensitivity loss. This will give you the comparison and corrected comparison, nothing different from total and pattern deviation. You will get the corresponding probability plots as in the Humphrey as well. The probability plots are also just below that. The defect curve is a little interesting in that the 59 test points is G program. The least deviated is 0. The most deviated 59 point is ranked to the right. And if you look at the normal curve, it will lie within this range. This is a generalized scotoma. This is a localized scotoma. And this is a generalized scotoma with a localized scotoma. So this gives you a pattern of what is actually happening overall in the visual field. This is not specific for glaucoma, but gives you a pattern of roughly what's going on in the visual field. For some of us who are transitioning from octopus to Humphrey or Humphrey to the octopus can actually generate a pattern of field printout, which looks similar to the HFA, called the HFA type printout from the machine itself. You can actually connect it and use that as well. And the cluster analysis looks at 10 clusters above and below, and depending on the color coding, depending on the bold and the plus or the sign, the printout color, you can actually decide what is the p-value of the MD generated from a cluster MD. A cluster MD is generated from these clusters. And this actually corresponds to the arcuate areas in glaucoma, which we all know. And the polar diagram actually will correlate to the sensitivity loss, and the longer the red line, the more expected the deviation would be. And this would correlate to the structure of the loss of RNFL and the cupping in the optic disc and so on. This patient's typically you can actually correlate, go back and look at the disc and the RNFL, look at the red free, and you can actually correlate both structure as well as the function using the polar analysis. A 2-in-1 printout is actually very useful in sometimes in neuro-ophthalmology. Sometimes we don't look at fields simultaneously. If you look at the field, 2-on-1 can be printed out in the same paper. Therefore, if you look at symmetry and asymmetry, if you want to look at neuro-ophthalmology fields, this is very useful for particularly for neuro-ophthalmology evaluation and so on. You can also look at progression analysis with the octopus printers, perimeters like the Humphrey. You have an overview, you have the global progression, you can have cluster progression and corrected cluster analysis. You can also have what is called as a polar trend analysis. This is an overview showing you the change over time. This is the global as well as the cluster trend. Global trend gives you only the MD or the mean defect. The downward arrow tells you that over multiple fields over time, this is going down. You can get this.
Sir, 1 minute remaining.
Yeah, almost finishing. This is about. You also get the fluctuation in decibels, which is not available in the Humphrey type of printers. You will get the progression rate. You will also get the slope per year. And the cluster trend will clearly show you in each cluster what is the decibel loss per year. So this is another way of looking at glaucoma progression. And the corrected cluster trend is one step ahead in which you can judge the glaucoma independent of the cataract. The cluster trend, the corrected cluster trend can be generated. So this is for you a brief in octopus. I'd be happy to take any questions.
That was a very, very crisp talk. You know, it actually made me wonder that why we keep harping about Humphreys when it's so innovative and
one last thing I forgot to say, I don't have any financial interest, though I wish I had.
Yeah, I wish you had, truly. So, but one very simple question, how would you find out a localized curve if your defect curve is showing a diffuse loss?
If there's a diffuse loss, the Beebe's curve will show you the overall line will come downwards compared to the normal curve. If you have a local scotoma, the line will come down sharply. That will give you an indication there's something going on.
No. You have a diffuse curve in the defect curve, diffuse loss, but you want to know what is the local defect due to glaucoma. Then which parameter would help you define what is the local
comparison? You can look at the corrected comparison, the probability matching to that. You can actually look at the values also. It's not just the defect curve. Defect curve is just some kind of a summary. Yeah, it's only an impression.
Yes.
Ideally, you should look at the corrected comparison.
Dr. Murli, is there anything analogous to the VFI in the octopus? Like we have the visual field index, which summarizes the whole field in a single number out of 100. So is there anything similar in the octopus?
No, there is nothing similar to the VFI. Use the MD and the LV. Something like the, you don't have anything like the VFI. There is no VFI.
Okay. So there's no attempt to grade the defects based on.
You don't need a VFI, by the way.
Okay.
Fine. Is your cluster analysis similar to the event and event?
No, GHT, you mean? It's something like the glaucoma hemifield test, but there's only 5 clusters above and below the GHT does. This one actually is looking at 10 clusters, and each cluster is an MD calculated for that, and the P value for the MDs. So depending on the P value, the color coding and the lettering is also printed out. The darker the color, the bolder the print, you mean that it means that you have a larger loss in the cluster. And this cluster you can actually follow. Instead of following up the overall field, you can actually look at specific clusters and say this RNFL defect is widening, or this area is deepening, or this field defect is enlarging. That's very clear with the cluster, which we can't do with any other parameter.
Okay, but there is no point-wise event-based analysis. Like in the Humphrey, we have trend based on the VFI and an event-based analysis on each single point where it compares it to the baseline. So there is no correlating event. Yeah, it's just cluster-based and not a point-based. But it is an event.
It is
a trend-based analysis or event-based?
Event-based. I think
event-based.
It is basically a trend analysis.
And it's also a trend analysis only.
It is a trend, but you can select which ones you want, and then you can ask for the machine to see where exactly is the progression happening in which points. So actually we can look at the clusters, each cluster, and also in the polar we can see where exactly is the progression happening, and then you can just modify the treatment accordingly. So yeah.
Supposing you have a printout of an octopus and you are doing Humphreys only, a patient brings an older report. So how would you correlate the mean defect of the two if you see? Since Dr. Murli, you say you do both, I just wanted to understand.
Actually, it depends on which parameter. The octopus 1, 2, 3 and the 300 had a different type of background itself, and the different 0 decibel is totally different. Whereas the octopus 900 is quite different. So you need to look at which machine the test was done. That is one. Second is, if possible, you can actually have the nomogram. We have a nomogram for calculating the thresholds from the octopus to the Humphrey and Humphrey to the octopus and vice versa. But somebody brings you a Humphrey printout and you have an octopus machine. That's when the problem comes, unless they give it to you on a CD, or if you have the actual data, you can actually convert it from the iSuite software. You can actually use the software and convert the data and vice versa. But if they give you a printout, you simply have to eyeball it next to each other. But you can't really, strictly speaking, you can't really compare, even though you can say 4 decibels this way, that way is a difference between the Humphrey and the octopus. Am I right, Satyan?
Yeah, it is approximately 4 degrees lesser. Say, for example, octopus has 20 decibel loss, and then in Humphreys, octopus has 16, and it will be Humphreys is about 20 decibel loss.
Correct. About 4 decibels, yeah, that's good. That's
approximately 4 decibels, but there is no strict criteria. It is an approximation of about 4 decibels.
Okay, is there any progression algorithm for the 10-2 in the, or the 10 degree or the macular fields in the octopus? like you said, there's that cluster-based analysis. In the 10-degree central field, is there a progression algorithm or a progression analysis software available?
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
Okay.
I want to ask both Satan and Murli that how useful is the polar trend analysis as far as structure function correlation in early glaucoma?
Basically, the polar, we have to understand this is an extrapolated data. So we have to take it with a pinch of salt.
Okay.
You have to see the reliability and correlate with the fundus photograph and OCT and other things. If everything correlates, then you can really take up the polar. Otherwise, so polar is an extrapolation.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, it's a no-brainer that when you have a polar diagram, you can actually look at the disc and field. So most often, as a good clinician, you would have actually seen the disc finding, you would have seen the RNFL loss, you would have seen some other parameter also. So the polar analysis is another way of, suppose you have totally missed the findings, you can go back and look at the disc and go back and look at the RNFL. We don't really need the polar analysis for a diagnosis or management.
Okay.
Okay.